We need to just focus, just please God. Everyone who is not well should should get healed, and all those who have suffered loss should find comfort in great memories they have of the people that they've lost, and in the Torah that we learn, and the tefillahs, and all the mitzvahs that we do for others. Okay, so this week Parsha Korach begins that we know the story. We don't have to go through the story, that strange attack on Moshe Rabbeinu, on him personally, and it's a real attack on him. What we've had from before is kind of like complaints against Hashem and some complaints against Moshe, but no real personal attacks in the same way. And Korach comes along and he attacks Moshe in such a difficult way. And as a result of that, the Torah says, I'll just read the English. So it says, they gathered against Moshe and against Aaron and said to them, is it too much for you, for the entire assembly? All of them are holy, and Hashem is among them. Why do you exalt yourselves over the congregation of Hashem? So can you imagine accusing the most humble man in the world of nepotism? It's just like even conceptually. And the Torah says, as a response to that, Vayishma Moshe, and Moshe heard this, Vayipol al panav, and he fell on his face. And it's always concerned me, like, what does it mean that Moshe Rabbeinu fell on his face? So I'd like to explore that a little bit, and hopefully we can come out with something. So Rashi tells us, Vayipol al panav, Rashi says, Rashi explains that the reason why there's such a massive reaction from Moshe, and we'll see what it means, that if Vayipol al panav, because either he fell out of weakness, or he fell out of something else. We're trying to understand that. But whatever it was, there's something about the machlokes, according to Rashi, that made him so either weak or davening or something that he felt he needed such an extreme reaction that the Torah records, Vayipol al panav, he fell on his face. Normally that would describe some type of prostrating in tefillah, but that's not what happens here. Rashi says, Shekfar zeh beyadam sichon revi'i. This is the fourth kind of like offense on their part. Chat uba egel, they done the egel azav. That's number one. Then the bimit onanim, and then the people who complained, and in both cases Moshe davened, and the meraglim, and again Moshe davened. But machlakato shel Korach nidrash lu yadav, and says Rashi, but came down with the machlekas on Korach, nidrash lu yadav, his hands he felt them powerless. Mashal Leven Melech Shesarach al Aviv says you can take an example of a prince that has a bit of an argument with his father. And 3 times his father is prepared to forgive him. But on the 4th time, but on the 4th time, his father just, I just can't do it. He says, how much longer can I do it? Shema lo yekabel od mimeni. He's not going to accept it anymore. And that's Moshe Rabbeinu says, you've pushed Hashem, and now, Korach, you come along and you do this. You've pushed Hashem one step too far. So how am I ever going to be able to get HaKadosh Baruch Hu to come back on the side of the people? So one of the things that strikes me as difficult here is Korach, V'chol Hadato, it's only him and 250 people and Datan and Aviram. It's not that many people. But it seems that Moshe Rabbeinu is taking this personal attack as on the same level as the Egel HaZahav, the complainants, and the Meraglim, and so he feels that he just can't get away with everything. Even Ezra says, and we'll try and come back to understand why Dafka Rashi chooses this, but let's try and understand that even Ezra says, "Vayipol al panav birtzono." He actually did it willingly. And others say he did it like prophecy. So the question that Ibn Ezra is, why would he fall on his face? Either he's doing it as some type of physical reaction to what happened with Korach, or he's doing it because that's how people receive a nevuah. Now it's clear from Rashi that it's got nothing to do with nevuah. It's got to do with his personal concern of the fact that this might be the last straw that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is prepared to accept. So comes along the Avi Ezer. Avi Ezer is a commentary on the Ibn Ezra. And the Avi Ezra says, he says that we find different times where people fall on nefillah, this concept of nefillah, we find that it means different things. The first one could be just humility, that a person falls on their face in tefillah out of humility. The second one could be just tsar v'charada, it could just be pain. The fact that the person is going through so much internal or personal pain that they fall on the floor. The third one is the fact that there could be nevu'ah. Maybe there's some type of prophecy that is coming to the person, and they fall out of the fact that they're just receiving a nevuah, and therefore they no longer have control over their limbs. But it comes to Avi Ezra and says it can't be. That's why he's explaining the Ibn Ezra. The Ibn Ezra says on his own willingly, either out of tefillah or because he's feeling such pain, as Rashi described it. But the Ibn Ezra also said, Yesh omrim kederech like nevuah. But says the Avi Ezra can't be nevuah. Why? Because we understand that when it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu is Lo kain avdi Moshe pe al pe adaber. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to him face to face. There's no need for him to go into some type of trance and lose control of his physical being, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaks to him face to face, like we're speaking to each other over Zoom, right? Whereas when Moshe Rabbeinu needs to ask Rachamim for to Hashem, he goes directly. There's never an indication that Moshe needs to go into a trance of prophecy, as opposed to, for example, Bilam had to go into a trance. And so therefore we see from the Ibn Ezra, he's now explaining a little bit where Rashi is coming from, that it has to be, it has to be willingly he does it. And in the case of Rashi, he's doing it because he's feeling completely overwhelmed. This comes along the Gur Aryeh, the Maharal. The Maharal has got a great perush on Rashi called the Gur Aryeh. And in the Gur Aryeh, he quotes from the Pasuk in Amos. And the Pasuk in Amos says that, what does it mean? These are the fourth time. The Pasuk in Amos says, Ko amar Hashem, al shlosha pish'ei Damasek. Hashem said, for 3 transgressions of Damasek, va'al arba'a lo ashivenu. But for the 4th, I will not allow for tshuva. What was the 4th? I'll do sham b'charutzot habarzel es Gilad, because they threshed Gilad with boards of iron. So the Malbim explains, what does this mean? Malbim explains that whenever we speak about the number 3 referring to different averas, we're talking about the averas of the 3 cardinal averas of idolatry, inappropriate sexual behavior, and murder. And it says those three are the limit that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. But then there's a 4th. And what is the 4th? And the 4th one, he explains, is the 4th one, what they did is that they threshed the floor of Gilad. So they threshed Gilad like a threshing floor with boards of iron. And explains that it was the absolute limit for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu couldn't handle it. Why? Shayu ma'avirim al gufam charutzot bazel. In what? In a manner of achzariot, in a manner of cruelty, in a manner of pain. And it seems to be that perhaps this is what the Maharal is telling us, is that when Moshe Rabbeinu, in all the other cases, when Moshe Rabbeinu is faced with the Egel Azav, when he's faced with the mitonim, with the complainants, when he's faced with the meraglim, we can kind of understand where they're coming from. There's nothing that's personally attacking Moshe Rabbeinu. And because it's not personally attacking Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's really a complaint coming from fear, from pain, whatever it is, of Bnei Israel, so then we can understand it. But the 4th one, like the Maharal refers to this pasuk in Amos, where they came and they were hitting people with boards of steel, boards of iron, in a manner of achzarius, in a manner of cruelty, that can't be tolerated. And it's on that it might be that Rashi is saying that Moshe Rabbeinu felt the cruelty in the words of Korach. And because he felt the cruelty in the words of Korach, he realized that HaKadosh Baruch Hu might not forgive Bnei Israel for this. We don't find, why has Bnei Israel got anything to do with Korach? Because we don't find anywhere that Bnei Israel stand up for Moshe Rabbeinu. Here's this man who's done everything for them. He saved them on so many levels. But nowhere in this whole story of Moshe and Korach do we find anybody says, Korach, how can you be so cruel? How can you think that this man who's taken us and done so much for us would be even arrogant enough to put his brother in a place of leadership? Because everything he's done is at the hands of Hashem. He's at the mouth of Hashem. Everything is done according to the instruction of Hashem. And it seems to be that that's what Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't handle. The fact that it was so cruel, it was so biting, it hit to the very essence of his sensitivity, of knowing that he is never, ever, ever doing anything that is not what HaKadosh Baruch Hu has told him to do. And it might be that for that reason, that the Rashbam tells us, as the Rashbam says, what is it Vayipol al panav? Why did he fall on his face? Litfila, for tefillah. Because at the end of the day, he didn't know. Once now it's a personal attack, and he's nogaya badavar. He's completely involved in this. It's not a thing about Bnei Yisrael versus HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he has the mediator. Here is he being attacked. He's hurt. He's feeling emotionally attacked. What is he going to do? The only thing that he can do at this time is turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what am I supposed to say to Korach? How am I supposed to approach this situation? Because I'm no longer with clarity of mind. It's such an important concept for us to understand that when we get it, when we feel an emotional experience in this, we have to turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and find the answers to try and create a certain level of objectivity. The Kitzu Balaturim adds in a little bit of an extra as to what the personal attack was. And the personal attack says the Kitzu Balaturim, Vayishma Moshe b'gematria melamed ki chashduhu ba'isha. That the Balaturim says that the gematria of Vayishma Moshe teaches us that chashduhu ba'isha, that Korach, v'chol hadaso, Korach and all his chevra, they actually were whispering amongst themselves that Moshe Rabbeinu was having an inappropriate relationship with another woman. And that, if you go remember, that goes all the way back to Miriam, because Miriam is the one who said he's not with his wife. Now they're saying the reason why he's not with his wife is not because he's having such a big tzaddik and such a big navi, but rather because he's actually having a relationship with somebody else. So all of these things are a personal, cruel attacks against Moshe Rabbeinu. And so therefore, as Rashi told us, he stands before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't know what to do. Because this thing is being machalek him. It's breaking him himself. And so he falls on his face, not believing that in this fourth thing that has happened, the personal cruelty attack, he'll be able to find any solace. And I think it teaches us a lot about the manner in which we need to be so careful in engaging with others that, you got to play the ball, not the man. And often we get ourselves involved in certain situations, and sometimes, whilst they may be valid, and whilst there may be situations where, there are issues that we need to deal with, we need to be so careful not to play the man, not to attack the person. Yes, Korach had perhaps a valid thing where he was concerned, but then discuss it, speak it through in a proper and a non-emotional way, so as not to call hurt, and not to call the achzarius, because the achzarius, the cruelty, is the thing that Moshe Rabbeinu understood is something that HaKadosh Baruch Hu cannot tolerate. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Just be well and be safe.